One time I was talking to a group of sorority girls, and I was telling them that, building your confidence on your image is about as strong as building it on your makeup foundation, right? Because your image changes, things change, and your makeup foundation certainly does. Your makeup foundation only lasts a certain amount of time. It's gonna crack, it's gonna smudge, it's gonna come off at the end of the day, and then you're faced with who you really are. And so if we build our confidence on things like our image, we have to know that times are gonna change, things are gonna change, and it's fleeting. And as much as we know that, I think it's still hard not to, because so much of our world is so focused on what we look like and what we accomplish and the things that people perceive us as. It's crazy how scary it can be to be vulnerable enough to sit in front of a camera and take your makeup off. I think because normally when you take your makeup off, you're alone at night and no one has to see the blemishes that you uncover. But the fact is they're there and you know it. And take off your makeup, let people see like what's really underneath, what's really there. I mean, it's hard to be vulnerable and take off the filter on your life, not just your makeup. I think that so much of our life is so filtered. Like, you get to choose, how you present yourself on social media. You get to get dressed in the day and show up how you want to and present yourself. But at the end of the day, you got to come back home, you got to take the makeup off, and you got to deal with the actual reality that you're living in. And I think some people just avoid that. They try not to look in the mirror. They try not to see who they really are because maybe they're insecure about it. Maybe they don't feel like it's enough. And I think that, that is the lie. I think that we all feel like we're not enough. And so that's why you wake up and you cover the things about you that don't feel like enough or don't feel like people will appreciate or like or accept or whatever. I think that that's where like all that striving comes from, is not feeling like you're enough. And I think that's the thing about it, is that all of us truly were knit together in our mother's womb. We're created by a God who is so intentional and made us original. And that word original literally means without copy. Like, you're not an imitation of someone else. You are made without copy. You're wonderful, beautiful, unique. There's no one else who looks like you, and that's a good thing. But society and the filters in our life, have you noticed that they're all a copy of each other? Like, we all do the same makeup routine. Put the foundation on, do the blush, do the bronzer, do the lashes, do the whole thing. I mean, we all wear the same clothes. The trends all come and go. We want to just like stay in that mold of what everyone else is looking like. And actually, after filters became a thing on Snapchat and Instagram, I read somewhere that plastic surgery went up by 55% for young people because people wanted to imitate the image that they saw the filter represent. Like, they wanted that to be what they really looked like, because they didn't want to have to see themselves unfiltered anymore. They were like, that's what I want. I want the bigger eyes, the higher cheekbones, that look, the bigger lips. And the thing is, it's like, that has given us this image that it's like, oh, you can be that, but you can't. It's not real. It's just not real. And so many of us are striving for an image that is not real. And that's why you never feel like you're enough, because constantly we're seeing these things. It's like, oh, if you had that, then you would be enough, then you'd be accepted, then you'd be more liked, you'd be more followed. But it's like, that's just not real. That's just not real life. And at the end of the day, you know that. And I think we hide things like this, the fact that we have, covered ourselves, filtered ourselves, because that's not the pretty things in life. But I actually think, I think back to this one time where I was watching this girl take her makeup off. It was a friend of mine. And like, she had half her makeup off, this side of her face, and her other face was still on. And I remember thinking, like, who told us that the other side was prettier? You know, like who told us that the made up side was like more beautiful than the side of her that had her makeup off? And, you know, society told us that, magazines told us that, Snapchat filters told us that, the industry told us that. But I remember looking at her and thinking like, man, she's so beautiful. Like, actually, like, she's a beautiful person. And when she took it off, it almost like enhanced her beauty, because it was like she didn't need to add anything to be more beautiful. And I try to see myself like that, but it's hard to see yourself in that way, because of course I'm looking at myself right now, and what do I see magnified? The pimples, the breakout, that kind of thing. But I don't think people see that when they look at me. Like, I don't think that's what they're thinking. And I think actually when I'm able to embrace that side of me, it actually gives other people the freedom to embrace that side of them too, to come to terms with who they are, and that it's okay. Like, it's okay to just be this, and that's actually enough. And now, having 2 daughters, I look at my girls and I'm like, they are all together beautiful, so wonderful, original. There's no one like them, and they don't have an ounce of makeup on. And I just am like, when is the day gonna come that they start feeling like they need that to be their version of enough? And see, that's heartbreaking when you look at it like that, but then you have to remember, like, that's you, friend, you know, like, that's me. I am a daughter too, and I was made this way, and I need to learn to accept that. And I think that striving in life, that thing that always says like, okay, well, I'll accept that when my skin clears up, you know, I'll accept that when I get this number back on the scale, I'll accept that when I have, you know, this job or this popularity or this amount of followers, like, then I'll accept who I am. But I think the most powerful thing that you can do and experience is if you take the makeup off, unfilter yourself, look in the mirror and say, actually, I'm enough right now. Why? Because this is actually who God created. And when God created me in his image, it was so much more than the reflection I see in the mirror. It's a reflection of the heart that he created in me. And that is like so significant and so powerful. And so I just hope as women, like, we don't live our whole life thinking one day we'll believe we're enough, because I just don't think that one day is ever going to come by some goal you accomplish or some, you know, image you reach by all the things that the world tells you how to get there to reach them. I think that feeling of being enough is going to come whenever you get with the Father and you realize that he made you wonderful, and he made you beautiful, and he delights in you right where you're at, right in your mess, right with your acne, right at the weight you are, right at the size jean you wear, and you just accept that, you know what, I'm more than what I see in the mirror. And even what I see in the mirror is absolutely beautiful and wonderful, because it was created by a masterful artist. And I think that's one of those things, you know, you hear in women's conferences, you hear people say, and you're like, okay, that's sweet, that's cute, but that's not sweet, cute, that's just true. That's the identity you can find yourself in the Word of God. And so, man, I think we'd live a lot more free lives. I think we'd live with a lot more joy. I think we'd live with a lot more life if we would be willing enough to unfilter ourselves and right where we're at, decide that we're enough because God said we are, and because we really believe that, and we can give the gift to other women to know that you're enough too. And you don't have to filter yourself either. I'm not going to filter myself. And we're going to believe it for each other that we were actually created beautiful and wonderful before doing a thing to add to that. Okay, so, you know, at the beginning of the song, I say, why do I feel like this? Careless words left me broken. And, you know, I think that whenever we wrote this song, I remember thinking, that's what it is. It's crazy that I feel this way, because these words that were spoken were so careless. Like, you know, I have this entire book of the Bible that tells me my identity and its truth, and it's, you know, there for all the ages. And I'm like, okay, forget that for a second. I'm just going to believe the words that were just like so carelessly spoken. And so when we were writing this song, when I said, why do I feel like this? It was like, it was like this annoyance. Like, I'm like, why am I letting myself feel this way? Because I genuinely do believe these words. Like, it's actually really hard for me to feel confident. It's really hard for me to feel beautiful. And it's so easy to say, like, you're beautiful and wonderful. But, like, I don't feel that way because careless words have left me broken. And I remember back at the time, there were just some really careless words spoken over me. I was, you know, doing some modeling at the time, and I had some of the people say to me, you know, oh, if you lose 10 pounds, then you could be a real model. Or, oh, if you, like, literally pinched my waist and said, if you just lost this, then this dress would look so much better on you. And that was at a time where I was really already striving, already losing. And so I just constantly felt like, okay, I have to, like, do more and then I'll be enough. But as I am right now, I'm not. And so that kind of like messed with me. But then even beyond that, it was like people in my actual life who told me things that were just like not okay. And I remember someone said to me one time something along the lines of like, oh, if you just did that, then you would probably be able to get this guy's attention. And I remember thinking like, okay, again, as I am right now, I'm not enough. But if I just did that, then I could hold this person's attention. And I think like so many of us operate in that space of like, if I just did this, then I would become enough. If I just did that, then people would accept me or like me. And sometimes that's losing 10 pounds. And sometimes that's, you know, getting work done on your face, or sometimes that's just like covering up things and filtering your way through life and giving people a different perspective than what's really true about you. And we just think like, if I just did that. And I lived in that space, and I just remember feeling like I was never enough, the constant need to strive, wasn't eating great at the time, wasn't healthy mentally, physically, but on this pursuit of what I thought was going to get me to the point of holding someone's attention. And I think that that's the thing about this song that was so powerful to me about what God did in my life, is that I didn't have to do anything to become enough in the eyes of God. Like, I already was enough. And I think when that revelation hit me in the midst of a really messy time in my life, it was so crazy, because I was like, God, you love me right now? Like, this is the ugliest part of me. Like, I'm not healthy. Like, as far as I've done like some messed up stuff. Like, I was living in sin. I was like struggling. And in that messiness, that's when I felt like God say, like, I love you, I delight in you, you're my child. And all of a sudden, these things that like used to be so hard to believe and seemed almost cheesy, like just like church things to say, became like my identity. I was like, wait, this is actually who I am. This is actually true. I'm enough right now, right where I'm at, even in the mess. Like, you love me enough to like claim me as yours. And I don't have to do anything to like grab your attention. You just delight in me right now. And man, just like the striving that came off my life, the rest that came over me was just like the most beautiful thing. And I remember literally looking in the mirror the day that I felt the Lord really speak that over my life. And seeing myself for the first time for kind of like where I was at in life. And again, wasn't great, but it didn't matter because I felt the Lord hold me and say it's okay. So I remember back in the day, because these are all things that are easier said than done. And I remember like the grittiness of actually trying to believe that I was beautiful and wonderful was actually really a messy process. Because I remember back in the day when people would compliment me or say like, you're beautiful, I would immediately like cover my face and be like, thank you. And I would just like kind of scratch my face. Like, it was so hard for me to even receive that it would immediately make me hide. And I remember people would ask me like, why do you cover your face when you get complimented? And it wasn't like I was trying to be humble or be like cute or whatever. I actually just genuinely did not believe that I was beautiful, and that just made me like want to like cover myself. Like, it just, I don't know, I just wanted to hide behind that because I didn't believe it. And I think I had some reason to believe that. I mean, I had people say things, like I said, careless words, but like words that really hurt and words that really stuck with me. And sometimes those careless words, like, you don't realize that they were carelessly spoken. It seems like they were significant words in your life, but you have to remember those people probably didn't care about you enough to say words of truth. Or maybe they did. Maybe that's what hurt the most, is that it was someone that should have loved you in that way, and they said something that was deeply painful. And I've had kind of both experiences. But I remember one time I was at this photo shoot, and I'm supposed to be the model at the photo shoot that's like no makeup. It's supposed to be this all natural look, which I thought was so cool that this, you know, company was doing that. So I was like, yes, all about it. Well, I get there and the photographer comes over with the makeup artist, and he says, oh yeah, no, she doesn't have the face for no makeup, so y'all just make it look like she's natural. And I was like, oh my gosh, like, ouch, right? And so then they proceed to like cover up all of my acne and like make my lips a little pinker and make, you know, it looked like I didn't have makeup on, but I did. And then you see, that's part of the problem, because then that's blasted out there like, here's this natural beauty, but it's not natural. And so then you look at that person, and I was that person, and you go, I'm not enough. Or meanwhile, I'm on the billboard and I'm not enough. Like, I don't feel like I'm enough because I was just told I'm not enough. And so, yeah, that was like a careless word spoken. That guy doesn't know me. He probably will never remember that moment for the rest of his life. He was just doing his job. But like, I let that have way too much power over my life. And so now here I am, and I'm kind of in that second part of the song where it says, I'm walking a different way with confidence. I'm wonderfully, wonderfully made. And what's crazy is like that verse, you're beautiful and wonderful, my darling. There's no flaw in you. I remember just being like, unrelatable. Like, yeah, no, there are flaws in me. I don't know if I can believe I'm beautiful and wonderful. And now today, it's so crazy. I believe that. Like, I 100% believe that. And guess what? I'm sitting here today with my no makeup shoot, and I am the girl for this. And guess what? I still have acne, and I'm 27 years old, and I still have breakouts and all the different things, but that is so not my focus. You know, that is so not my focus. I will not let careless words become my identity. I have too much going on in my life. I was made for way more than that, to be so focused in on that. And what's so cool is when I received those words from Christ, that, you know, he paid this price for me, gave me this new life, and that God actually does see me as a child, which is beautiful and wonderful and delights in me. Like, when I saw myself like that, I was actually to receive that from other people too. So thankfully, I did that before I met Christian. And so when Christian, you know, my husband tells me I'm beautiful, I can receive it and actually believe that, because that, you know, is that's actually affirming what I already know to be true about how God made me to be. You know, it's not something I hide from anymore. It's something that I really accept and receive. And it's not something I go, oh yeah, I'll be that when my skin clears up. I'll be that when I lose weight. I'll be that when I do the surgery. I'll do that when I, you know, get my new skin regimen. I'll do that when I get the followers. No, it's not something I'll believe later whenever I accomplish something. It's something I'm going to believe right now, because it's who I was created to be. It's who God affirmed me to be. And so, man, it's crazy. To walk in confidence where I'm at now is a miracle. And I think that that's a miracle that God hands out to every single one of us. And how cool would it be if you, as a woman, actually started to believe what God said about you and you walked in confidence? I mean, that you're a miracle walking, friend. And man, you would give other women the freedom to believe that too, and to accept that miracle in their life. I think we'd live in a way more joy-filled world. I think sisterhood would be better. I think everything about life would be better. And I know that to be true because I've experienced that in my own life. And the freedom I have found is something I never really knew I was going to be able to obtain. And I hope that I carry this with me for the rest of my life, because I want it for myself. I want it for my girls. I want it for my friends, because I don't want anybody to be trapped in the bondage of careless words that were spoken that were never meant to be attached to who you were created to be.